Hi everybody, welcome to the Shock Factor series video number 12. And again, in this video, we shall be looking at the 12th hurdle in trying to apply technical analysis to the markets. Okay, again, this is Shock Factor video number 12. I'm going to try to make this video a bit shorter as compared to my other videos. So let's immediately press ahead with the next slide. In this video, we shall be looking at what I call the illusion of what we refer to as survivorship bias, especially when trying to understand trading performance. Now, survivorship bias is something that you really have to pay attention to, because otherwise you might be misled and things might get so out of hand and might be so misrepresented, and the actual nature or characteristic of what you observe, when it comes to trading performance, may not fully represent the actual mechanics or dynamics of the situation itself. Okay, I'm here specifically talking about trading performance. Okay, enough talk. Let's press on to the next slide immediately. Okay, here I would just like to refer to what we call the bell curve. I'm sure most of you've been to school before. You know what this is. Okay, it's just a simple statistical model which represents what we call a normal distribution of some kind of data set or values that normally converges around the mean value or the average value. Okay, that's all. It's just a statistical mechanism, a statistical device that we use to try to understand nature, to try to understand various systems, especially random systems, and so on. Okay. Now, again, I don't want to go into the actual mathematics of how this is created. In fact, you don't need to do that. Just understand the basic outline, and that is good enough for us to press on with the rest of this video. Okay. All right. So again, what this represents is based on a statistical model that exists, assuming everything is random. Okay. Fairly random, okay, very random. Because if it's not random, then this curve will be skewed either to the left-hand side or to the right-hand side. But let's assume that we are in a kind of normal random environment, okay, where things are happening by happenstance and all that stuff. Normally, when you measure the outcome, or you have a data set based on some parameter or some value that you're trying to measure, a lot of times, it's strange, it's very strange, but a lot of times it falls, when you start to plot it out on a graph or on a chart, it starts to look like a bell curve. Sometimes it's more skewed. I mean, the peak, sometimes it's more to the left, sometimes it's more to the right. But let's draw a perfect, well, I won't call this perfect the way I've done it, but but let's just assume that this is a perfect normal curve. Perfect, okay? Perfectly symmetrical. That's what I mean. Now, the mean is in the middle, which means whatever occurs in this area, whatever samples you've been collecting, whatever values that you've been trying to record, a lot of times you will fall around the mean area. For example, I'll give you an example. I mean, I know you already know all this. I'm just repeating what you already know, but I think it's fair that I do it just in case you have forgotten. For example, let's say you go to a classroom and you measure the average height or the height of everybody in the classroom, for example. You'll find that a lot of times you will fall into this kind of pattern, this kind of curve. It will look like a bell curve. Most of the students, or the graduates in the classroom or at college will normally be around an average height. Very few will be very tall, and very few will be extremely short. Okay, less likely to be extremely short and less likely to be extremely tall. So as you converge around the mean, the average of the bell curve around this area, it is very likely most of the values or most of the heights that you have measured in that particular classroom will fall around the middle area within two standard deviations. We call this 2 standard deviations. But I don't want to go into all that. This is a YouTube video. We're not studying rocket science or anything like that. Okay, you can always go over to Google or just search on the internet. He'll explain everything. I don't need to repeat all that. Okay, so this chart represents 1 standard deviation to the right, 1 to the left. As you move to the right, to the second standard deviation and to the third standard deviation, the probability of that event happening or that particular data is collected or that value is being recorded is less likely. On average, most of the data, most of the values that you see when you do a sample set will fall around plus or minus one deviation. So within a two standard deviation, one here, one to the right, one to the left, you add it together, you get two standard deviation. That represents around 68 to 70% of what you will find normally happening, especially in nature as well. Okay? Then again, going out further, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay? You're going out two standard deviations to the right and two to the left. Okay? 95% of all values that you have collected in your data set, for example, whether it's trading performance, ROI, whatever it is, because I'm going to specifically just talk about trading performance. I'm not going to talk about all the other data sets out there, okay? Because this is all about trading, okay, in my YouTube videos. Trading and speculation, okay? So 95% of all values will fall within two standard deviations to the left and right. And for three standard deviations, 99.7% of all values should fall. Not guaranteed, but should fall within three standard deviations on either side of the bell curve, or what I call the normal distribution. If you don't want to think about standard deviations, just think of the percentages. Okay, that's all. Okay, one standard deviation is 34. The second one is 13. The third is 2%, and so on. Okay, just think of it in terms of percentages. Forget all about the standard deviation stuff. As I said, I just want to keep it super simple. Okay, all these are all based on statistical functions, statistical modeling, mathematics, and all that stuff. Okay, so to put it in complete layman terms is a little bit difficult. So I'm struggling a little bit, but it's okay. Life is life. It is what it is. And so let's carry on. Okay. I think you got the idea. So less likely, more likely in this area. Okay. Less likely on either sides of the bell curve, more likely in the middle. The further you go out to the right is going to get less likely for something to happen or some results that you're going to expect similarly to the left-hand side. Okay. All right. Okay. So now let's start. Most trading results that you get when we refer to trading performance and the ROI that we get, I think this bell curve is going to be skewed. It's not going to be a normal, perfect bell curve like what you see in front of you. It's going to be, the mean is going to be either skewed to the right or to the left. Most likely to the left, because it is a common fact. It is a universally known fact that most traders lose. So you can expect this mean to be a little bit skewed to the left-hand side. Expect, on average, more likely to have worse results, okay, or lower ROI, rather than, being a top performer or top trader with extremely good or very high ROIs, okay? So it's probably going to be skewed. But again, I do not want to go into that kind of detail. Let's just assume that on average, because the point doesn't involve that. The point I want to make, it doesn't involve whether it's going to be skewed to the left or right. Yes, of course, it's related, but my point is, let me explain what my point is. Hang on. So let's assume this is the curve you get, and you've gone around, you've done all your research, you've done all your research, you've done all your surveys, you went to gather results from as many traders as you can, okay, retail traders, for example, or even institutional traders, and you've gotten something like this. A lot of traders lose nearly everything. Most of the traders, again, as I say, it's going to be skewed to the left-hand side. Most of the traders will be, on average, breaking even or making money sometimes giving it all back, that kind of stuff going on. But very few traders will be making tremendously high ROI. Okay? All right? Okay, so what is my point? What am I actually trying to say here? So you have to be very careful when analyzing a trader's performance. So let's say, for example, these traders, they make a lot of money around this area. It could be a form of survivorship bias. So what is that? They could be tremendously skillful traders, an expert in the industry, have been doing it for over 25 years, and they are very successful. It could be that, yes, it could be. But it also could be something else. It could be just a matter of happenstance. That's all. Just a matter of coincidence that some traders, for some unknown reason, unbeknownst to them, they got no idea why it's happening, they just so happen to experience a series of profitable trades. And guess what? Now they reach this area of the bell curve. They find themselves in a very profitable scenario or situation. Not exactly knowing how they got there, it could happen. But the problem with that is that a lot of times they will give it all back. Okay? So it's very hard to tell. Although you've done your research, you went out of your way to get all the data from a few thousand traders all over the place, all over the world. You traveled to every country and you try your best to get the largest data set you can. And what you found is that there are quite a few traders in this area of the bell curve who are making tremendous amount of, very large returns, let's just say. And also, a lot of them are losing everything as well. But again, this could be the result of extremely good traders that know how to control risk. They know how to handle the markets, very good money management controls, all that stuff. It could be, or just pure luck. That is the problem. Just pure luck. They have a good run up in capital. But most likely is very likely, in fact, they're going to give it all back later. Sometime in the near future or distant future, and they're going to slide back down to this area of the bell curve. So when you're trying to determine whether a trader has exceptional trading performance in terms of their ROI, you have to be very careful, because it could be just a matter of coincidence that they just so happen to experience a period of more than average profitable trades. They were over trading, let's assume that's the case, and therefore they are now finding themselves in this area of the bell curve. You see that? What I'm trying to say is that survivorship bias means those that survive. For some unknown reason, they could have no idea whatsoever why they are finding themselves in this position, as being a highly profitable trader. And that's a dangerous situation to be in, because very likely you're going to give it all back. It's just a matter of time, that's all. But then some are very skillful. How do you tell the difference? Just by looking at the ROI? No, that's not the way. You cannot determine if a trader is a consistently profitable trader unless you have access to the entire trading record, okay? Don't just look at the ROI. Remember, there was one video that we did earlier. The biggest mistake in backtesting is similar to that. We don't backtest for the highest ROI. That only represents part of the equation, part of the entire trading dynamic, okay? There's much more that you have to examine. And the number of trades involved, the data set, to determine whether a trader is successful has to be as large as possible. If a trader has only done 3 trades and he made a lot of money, that's statistically insignificant. He or she could have been lucky, who knows? The more trades you can gather, the more trades is involved in your analysis, the better chance that you can determine whether a trader has consistent profitability. And not only that, safe profitability. Okay? For example, I'll give you one example. If a trader has to risk 60% of his account to make 5%, okay, he risks 60% to make 5%, but his account is huge in terms of absolute dollar terms. So that 5% represents, like, for let's say $5 million US. And another trader risks say 1% to make 12%. You tell me who you think the better trader is. Unfortunately, the one that risked 1% to make 12, his or her account was only a very small account. But who cares about the size? Who do you think is a better trader? More effective, more efficient, in fact, more cost effective, risking a tiny amount to make a large amount. I'm just trying to bring up things are not so straightforward. You cannot just judge a person on how much money that person makes. No, that's only a very small part of the equation. There's much more than that. Much more than that. Okay? So whenever you see a trader around this area of the curve, that's not the final determination as to whether that trader is a truly skillful, masterful trader or otherwise. We don't know. We have to analyze the entire account data, okay, in terms of whatever they've done, how many trades they've done, what is the risk that you have allocated across all trades to make what you make. Okay, all that is very important, yeah. And the size of your risk as well. It's not just your reward to risk ratio. That's a small part of everything. It's actually much more than that. It's much more than that. The percent risk is important. Remember, there was one video we did earlier where if you increase the percent risk, but everything else stays the same, everything else being equal, you start to lose money. Is similar to that kind of phenomena. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I'm not very articulate in this video, a little bit less eloquent as per normal, because I'm just recovering from very bad food poisoning. So I'm still a little bit under the weather, as they say. All right. Thank you so much for joining me in this video, and I hope you found this video enlightening. Well, at least a little bit enlightening. And again, I shall see you in the next video very shortly, which is coming up very shortly, okay? All right, see you then. Until then, as usual, take care, be safe, and bye-bye.